Thankful Thursday, and good to see you all. We are live streaming on YouTube, so turn the mic over to you, Dove, Lori, Miss Sharon, when you come in. Good to see you all. I love you.
Okay. Thanks, Lynn. Good morning, Dove and Cher. She cut her camera. Good morning, Lynn. And I don't know, is Sharon going to show up? I presume.
I saw her in the room
Oh,
just minutes ago. So
oh, maybe her internet is not doing well. Okay, well, I'll start as usual. And we're on lesson 277, if I'm correct. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. So Ken Wapnick says lessons 277 and 278 are a dyad, dealing with the familiar and biblically related theme of binding and loosing. When we bind another, we bind ourselves and ultimately bind God, at least in our dream. The laws to which Jesus refers are the body's laws of specialness, particularly the law of one or the other. Bind and imprison you by giving you my sin, thereby hoping you will remain in prison until God finds and punishes you for your sin. So much for the Celtic ritual of binding, the hand fasting that they do at weddings, huh? Oh, and there you are wearing a Suzanne and David shirt, Dove. Did you wear that special for this lesson?
no, today is a New Year's, a Jewish Rosh Hashanah, so it's like we're together for the New Year's.
Oh, that's sweet. That's wonderful. And I love it too because you're still one with, I mean, of course, you're always one with Suzanne, and I feel the same with Rod. We are more one now than ever. And the other day I was complaining to him and saying, "Mom, but I miss your body and I can't hug you." And he's going, No, do you want truth or do you want illusion? Don't sit there and placate or feed those bodily urges or those bodily wishes for the body and for sense form. I'm like, you're right. I feel like crap when I do that. So, and I feel great when I know truth and when I know oneness. So, actually, him being without a body, because I was going, why didn't you heal? You should have healed. You should have healed. And it's like, no, I shouldn't have. I did heal. I healed in a way that's different than what you in the specialness wanted. Okay, back to the lesson 277. Good morning, Sharon. In so doing, I have the illusion of being free.
Laura, I just want to say I'm going to just listen today because we're picking up Cliff's daughter, so I'm not sharing.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks for letting us know.
But I'll listen though. Okay.
Okay, so in so doing, when God punishes you for your sin, I have the illusion of being free. Earlier in the workbook, Jesus explained that the jailer is imprisoned as much as the prisoner, and that's in lesson 192. Though each is on opposite sides of the bars, both are confined by the prison of sin. If I accuse you, I want to see you imprisoned in sin. Yet I continually have to project mine onto you in order to keep you there. This patently imprisons me by sin, for I am myself bound by the need to project, attack, and bind. In paragraph 1, lines 1 to 3 says, your son is free, my father. Let me not imagine I have bound him with the laws I made to rule the body. He is not subject to any laws I made by which I try to make the body more secure. So I'm reading right now Deepak Chopra's book, Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. I'm rereading it. And well, when I came back from the Joe Dispenza workshop, I had gone in, my shoulder had been in pain for about 6 months, and increasingly worse. And even PT made it worse yet. And so at the workshop, I thought, well, maybe I'll get healed. Maybe I'll use the mind to know that the body's not real and change my mind about thinking I need to suffer. or whatever I'm projecting onto the body, or even making a body real, and maybe I'll get healed. Well, no, last day it was hurting, we had these meditations where we laid on the floor and pulled up a blanket on us. And anytime I would not move my shoulder for a while, it would just, ouch, and pull up the blanket, ouch, sit up, ouch, and then in the car ride on the way home, I was in the back seat sleeping and ouch, So I thought, oh, well, okay, I guess I'll go back to another PT. Well, the next day I woke up and the shoulder pain was gone. So it's been a little twinge of, going back to the old thought system a little bit this week. But man, I've been picking up those grandbabies, those 30 plus pound grandbabies, like at least 30 times a day, and have not gone back to using the ice pack that I had been using for 3 months, every single day using an ice pack, and nothing was working. So anyway, I'm rereading Deepak Chopra's Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. And he says the same thing that the Course says, that the body is not real, that the body is energy, the body is information, and your mind is projecting a body. And so we have all these laws, and in Lesson 76, I am under no laws but God's. It says, you think you have these laws of nutrition and medication and vaccination and all these different sleep and all these food and all this, and it goes, those aren't laws, those are madness. And Ken Wapnick was always careful to say, but don't stop your health insurance. Don't, think that you can just eat anything, because what happens is the ego takes over and says, well, then I can do anything I want. And that's not the point of it. The point is when you get to the place of truth of there is no body. And I meditate on that every single day, that the appearance of this body is energy and information, and it's not subject to the world. Because with aging, I've had to do it more, like thinking this aging thing and buying into the collective idea of aging is really making me sick. This joint goes, more wrinkles, that faculty goes, difficulty eyesight, that muscle isn't working anymore. All these things that cumulatively affect you. And then, so in Deepak Chopra's book, he says, 98% of the body's cells are renewed and completely new every single year. Well, if that's the case, then what holds in place the scars or the debilities? I had an accident 40 years ago, so I have this. Consciousness holds that in place. And so, and even every 7 years, 100% of your cells are brand new. So when the Course says at no single instant does the body exist at all, but we are making it and we are projecting all this stuff. And I found that I had a ton of fears. Let me not bind your son with laws I made. Fear. If I don't follow this law, I'm in trouble. If I don't follow that law, I'm in trouble. I better do this or I'm going to suffer. And I've noticed, and not just with my shoulder, but just lots of things, the migraines, the wheezing, the asthma-like wheezing from allergies, etc., that when I'm in fear, they happen. When I'm not in fear and I remember what I am and I'm comforted, loved by God, I don't have those. So it's pretty amazing to have a lot of demonstrations of I don't have to do this. And also the same thing with muscle issues that I have right now. If I get into fear and I start ruminating on, this is bad, it's going to get worse. You better take that aspirin. You better take that Aleve. Or it's going to get worse. You're not going to be able to sleep and all that stuff. Well, guess what? It flares up from the fear. So, but Ken is focusing here on the special relationship more than the body, like the special relationship with another body. But our biggest special relationship is with our own body and our own personality. And when we can get to the place of this is not who I am, then we're free. Then we're set free. But what I had noticed in the past about the special relationship I had with this body, this personality, was I wanted to prove this. I wanted to say, I can do this. And if I can do this, so can you. But there was still a little specialness in there. And it has nothing to do with, I can do this, because the ego cannot do this. The ego cannot heal the body. The ego is the body. The ego is fear. The ego is death. And only when you get to the place of, oh, I'm just aligning with the mind of God, which is absolute perfection, absolute health, ageless, timeless God, that's when, if it's part of the script or whatever, it will heal and you don't have to worry about it. So I feel like I've been letting myself not bind myself with my son, myself, the body with laws I made, because they were really starting to upset me quite a bit. And I have to be careful not to fall back into that. So Ken comments on this first paragraph. I secure my body's safety by attacking you, the ego's fundamental law. Indeed, it underlies all bodily laws, one or the other. So I secure my safety by attacking the body. So if we put this back into our special relationship with the body, I know that I can actually feel it when I'm aware and meditating, like, oh, I get these illnesses because then I'm just like everybody else. And I feel a little more secure because then I won't be attacked by other people when I get something good and they don't. Like when I was a little kid, there was I felt guilty for having the specialness from my dad. I was his star. And the brother right under me, well, his life, became a drug addict and all that stuff. And I felt guilty. And so I could actually feel like what the Course was talking about, that when guilt demands punishment. And if we punish ourselves, we mitigate the punishment of God. And I could feel that, like, oh, well, at least I have problems too. He may have problems, but I have problems too. I'm not that perfect. And I felt better. And it's ridiculous because we're all equal. We're all all these body scripts and these personalities, they're just all part of the play. We're just all acting out the role that we've been given. And so I get that now, but in the past I didn't. And I felt guilty that I got the better role, So I'm going to stop there and turn this over to you, Dove.
Wow, that was really wonderful. I was listening to you, and I'm saying to myself, Holy Spirit is really with Lorri this morning, because she came through so smoothly and eloquently and right on. Almost every word you used there was perfect, the perfect words. Yeah, I'm going to take a look at lesson 277 too. As well as today's lesson. And I always put up Ken Wapnick's 2-sentence commentary, which is grokked from the same, journey through the workbook, which you read from. Let me not bind your son with laws I made, lesson 277. And then he says, the laws to which Jesus refers are the body's laws of specialness, which is exactly what you said. And then particularly the law of one or the other, which we know as sacrifice. And to sacrifice means I choose myself over another, kill or be killed. And as he says in my famous lesson 187, I bless the world because I bless myself, in paragraph 6, he says, those who understand what true giving is must laugh at all the things that this world believes to be true. They laugh equally at pain and loss and suffering, at starvation, poverty, and even death. And of course, the ego mind says, what are you, crazy? How could you laugh at starvation, poverty, loss, lack, and death. Who would do that? Just somebody who is unkind, somebody who is unloving, right? No, you're laughing because it's not real. It's not real. In this world, it appears, it looks like the separation is real, and oh, there for the grace of God go I. And so many people will say, "Oh, that poor devil, you know, he's going to be evicted," and oh God, no, that's none of that really means anything. You might say, "Well, what do you mean doesn't mean anything?" In fact, I'm looking at what happened in Asheville, North Carolina, and from the Hurricane Helene. And if you watch the news, I do, it was demolished. And if you have ever heard Dove in the past, I always say there's 3 PowerPoints on this planet. And one of them happens to be Asheville. The 2 others to me is Sedona, Arizona, and Boulder, Colorado. And I'm Mickey, and of course, Mickey happens to be in the state of North Carolina. And I'm just speaking about what's going on in Asheville, which is that, the journalists are finally getting in there, talking to the people who own businesses, who live there. The journalist was talking to the woman who owns the print shop there. And they were looking at what it looked like. Everything was completely destroyed. And the journalist said, "Are you going to rebuild and start all over?" And she said, "No, I'm leaving." And she apparently owns the building property, and she rents the apartments or whatever. And she said, "I would never ask anyone to rent one of these apartments that are completely destroyed." Go ahead, Mickey. Go ahead. Yeah.
It's so timely that we're talking about this, because I was telling someone last night that, if there's a disaster in Lebanon, or, in Zimbabwe, that's one thing. But when something happens 3 hours from your house, all of a sudden, I'm taking this personally. These are towns that I've been in. There are a couple of towns that happen, that were subject to mudslides and floods that don't exist anymore. This is a town I used to go to, and it doesn't exist. And all of a sudden, it became very personal. And I am having a hard time removing myself from the dream in that. All of a sudden it's become very, quote, real. And I've been struggling in the past. So, and it's really funny that you should bring this up, because one of the reasons why I wanted to come this morning is I need help, you guys, because I'm struggling with making this real. So,
Yep. Okay. I also want to wish you a Happy New Year. Happy
thank you.
Rosh Hashanah. And I was just telling the people, Lorri asked me why I'm wearing my shirt with Suzanne and David, which of course I mentioned because it's Rosh Hashanah, it's a new year, and we are one. We are one. And Lorri even mentioned, yes, I understand the oneness, because she says, I am always one with Rod, who is her partner. Rod has left. Suzanne has left. She left about 3.5 years ago. And I actually took this down from my bedroom wall. I'm going to go live here instead of using one of these things that we put up as a virtual background. I'm going to go live so I can show you these are the pictures. The these are the even with the live it doesn't work. Okay.
Sit down a little.
Okay.
Oh, there you go. Oh,
These are
look.
yeah, that's the day I was married. That's me and Suzanne. And the year was it was October 22, 1981, and we were married by the Reverend John Mundy, who is down at the bottom. There he is. You can see John there at the bottom. And I was going to, the reason I took it out is I did want to read the oath that we took. And I'll mention a little about that in a second. I'm going to really go back to my original virtual background in the woods. And it always reminds me, don't miss the forest for the trees. So don't make the trees special, which happens to be today's lesson 277. He's talking about let me not bind your son with laws that I have made. And the laws he's talking about is the laws of specialness, particularly the law of one or the other, which is the laws of sacrifice, choosing one over the other. Maybe the choice of making Asheville special. And I just said, I don't know if you were here, there's 3 PowerPoints in the United States, which I think are special. One of them is Asheville. The other 2 is Sedona, Arizona, and Boulder, Colorado. It appears that very spiritual people are attracted to these locations. And like like the oldest saying around is, why do bad things happen to good people? Isn't that Rabbi Kushner? I think he's the author of a book, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? And actually there is no bad and there is no like better people, good people. That Asheville is more spiritual than where I live, Yonkers, Hastings, New York. It's all the same. Why do we make one more important than the other? I am going to read the thing which saved me from much grief. My wife Suzanne passed on February 9th of 2021, which happens to be Lynn's birthday. And the lesson for that day, which is the 40th day of the year, is I am blessed as a son of God. That's a lesson. So these are this is the oath that I wrote for our wedding back in 1981. And this is what it says. We come together in holy relationship to draw us as one to our Father, in whom we give the glory. We give our Father the glory and the gratitude and the appreciation, for it is his plan that his glory be expressed through our unity to extend his changeless love and his eternal peace to heal and restore the sonship. To this purpose, we join our mind and will with our Father's and commit ourselves to remember we are one. So 3 days passed right after she passed, and I was wailing here. I said, Suzanne, where are you? God, why is this happening? But to be very honest with you, I didn't think that she was going to go until 1 week before she left. There was a hospice nurse here, and she said she only has about a week. I said, why do you say that? because I literally always thought that she was going to be with me all the way. That was a thought I had. And she says, because her body is closing down. And I hadn't noticed that. Well, at first she couldn't move her right hand, and then she couldn't move her left, and then she couldn't really move her feet, and then she really couldn't open her mouth well to eat. And I was missing all those signs. I mean, how could you miss it? Because I believed that she was going to get through this because she had gotten through 8 years of the same thing. And the hospice nurse said she's going to leave in about a week. I made the hospice nurse wrong. Said, why would you say that? It's like you're cursing her. She said, well, because her body is closing down. Well, now I recognize it. When a body closes down, it's saying goodbye. Okay, so 3 days went by, and I was really in grief. I was really in grief. And then all of a sudden, I passed this thing, this oath that we had taken for our marriage vows. And I saw the big letters, big words, we are one. I said, wait a minute. If we were one 40 years ago, we're one now. She never left. The body is not here. That's right. The body disappears. But we're not bodies. And that's kind of the message I wanted to bring. We're not bodies. And I did a lesson yesterday for Maureen's morning group. I teach on Wednesday and on Sunday. And the lesson was lesson 94. I am as God created. I am as God created me. And that's true for all, whether you're living in New York or Asheville. It's the same. Only the ego mind said, no, it's different. Those people are more special. And with that, I'll turn the mic on over to, is Sharon here? I don't.
Sharon, her internet keeps going in and out, it seems like. So.
Okay, all right.
They're picking up Cliff's daughter at the airport. So she's just listening.
All right, okay.
So, hi, Mickey, and I already said hi to Sharon.
But you guys, how do you still deal with the devastation? Just not making it real, just
forgive it. Forgive yourself for thinking that you're a person in a world that breaks down. So the whole way of dealing with everything in the course is, I forgive myself for projecting this. And
I forgive myself. Okay.
The Holy Spirit will guide you to whatever form you need to take.
Thank you.
But what you were saying, Mickey and Dove, is perfect. And good morning to peace in each alien. I don't know what that means.
Forgive it.
Yeah.
So anyway, what you were saying about Asheville was so perfect, because at the retreat I was just at, I met a woman from Asheville, and she had gone to Asheville about 2 years ago, opened up an acupuncture healing.
When she was at the retreat, she met a lady from Asheville, and little did we know, we played her this.
Oh, Sherry, you got to, there you go. Anyway, so I met a woman from Asheville, and we were talking about how great Asheville is, and she said, it's just so perfect. With the climate change, the hurricanes hit the coast. They don't hit Asheville. And Asheville had everything. It has the mountains, and it has this beautiful area, and the people there are really cool. And Mickey's here nodding and everything. And so it's like, there you go. You think you have a place of security in the world, in form. You have a partner. The partner dies. You have a place you're living at. Because the same thing happened to me when I moved up here. I'm in northern Michigan, gorgeous, wonderful place. And I'm thinking, well, I'm safe from climate change here, right? Well, this first summer I got here, we had a fire, and I was pissed. And then all the fires from out west in Canada, I could hardly see the bay, which is where I live. It's just a beautiful views and everything. Well, the bay was all hazed over with the smoke from the other places. So the point being, there is no safety in the world. Lesson 153, it is rooted in attack. But the safety comes from when we feel our oneness with God, when we know that we're protected and loved. And the Course says over and over, if you forgive, the world will be a safe place, where you can rest a while. It doesn't mean the world outside of us. And Dove, you're the one who helped me with that. You said that's the world in your mind. You think you're living here on earth. And so what my main meditation always is I am mind, in mind. I live in God's mind. I abide in truth. I am not a body living in a world where I'm vulnerable. And I remind myself of that every single day, because the minute I think I'm in this world, I'm scared to death. The body's aging, the fires, the climate change drives me crazy that, people running for president still don't believe in climate change. That kind of thing makes me crazy, and I can go nuts, but it's like, well, what do you expect from an insane mind that projected an insane world? You're going to get that. So that discussion was very helpful to me. And Dove, what you said about where are you? And you said in the pictures, we are one. We are one. And if we were 140 years ago, well, how could oneness go away? But the oneness can only be there. It can only be there when you think that you're a body. So Sharon, I know you're writing something on the board here. It's man-made, no climate change. Sorry, agree to disagree. Yeah, I know some people don't feel like there is climate change. And the thing is that it's the illusion. It's part of the illusion. But in the world that we live in, whether you think it's man-made or it's a thought, fires are worse, floods are worse, hurricanes are worse, all that stuff is way worse. And we've got the statistics for that. But even as I say that, I'm making the world real. And when I make the world real, or I make even that we disagree about it or disagree how to handle it or whatever, then I get all crazy. I get nuts. And so again, I go back to what you wrote on the board, Dove, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. 153. Because when I think I'm a person who has an answer, like, oh, this is how we have to handle it, well, then it's in opposition to another person who has another answer. And it just leads nowhere. It leads nowhere. And then Mickey, with what you were saying about, with Asheville, it becomes personal, or with these towns that are gone from the mudslides, it becomes personal. What a great opportunity. It's painful. It's sad. It's tragic. And what a great opportunity to move into truth. It's like, okay, it's truth or illusion. Do I want to live in this illusion where some things are happy and some things are bad? Or do I want to live in truth where no matter what happens on the screen, I know that I and everybody is safe in the arms of God, safe in the mind of God. And what has happened in my life, and I don't know if it will keep happening, but I've had situations more than once where I should have been in major danger. I should have died. I should have gotten major bad consequences. And I feel like I'm Jesus walking invisible through the mad crowd or something like that, because things happen that, well, how did that happen? Where, man, it was like I was just removed from the problem. And it's happened over and over and over. And I credit it to forgiveness. Just, okay, I'm not this person. I think I'm this person living in the world, currently in the United States. No, you're not. No, you're not. And that's what's worked for me. So I'm going to turn this over to either you, Dove, or if you want to talk, Mickey, or Cher, if you want to talk, I'm going to turn it over.
Go ahead, Mickey. Thank you.
So it's really funny that what Dove was talking about with Suzanne. My brother passed last March, and I love this man. And I, I mean, I just anyway. Uh, because it's really funny how our minds work against all of this, how the ego comes in and messes with us. That because my brother had nothing to do with spirituality, absolutely nothing to do with the course, didn't even want to hear about it, that my connection with him is not as good as Dove's connection with Suzanne because the other person isn't so-called cooperating, which I think is really funny how the ego snuck in, and I keep saying to myself, you're letting the ego mess with your head. What is going on? You should be, quote, you should be further along than this. You should not be listening to the ego as much. You should be able to ignore it and say, no, you are one with your brother. He is just as much with you now as he was before. And yet there's this grief and this appearance of separation because we weren't connected by the course together like Dove and Suzanne were. So, the ego, yeah, I love what it says in the course. The ego is foolproof. Its thought system is foolproof. It's not God proof. It anyway.
Okay.
I would love your thoughts on this stuff.
Thank you, Mickey, for bringing that up, because that was like spirit speaking to me when you share that. Anything that changes is of the ego. I mean, we're talking about climate change. Is it real? Is it not real? Well, obviously, Helene, the hurricane that literally wiped out Asheville, comes from climate change. And yes, there are people who say, "Oh, there is no climate change," and what they're really saying is, I choose to make more money in the things I'm doing, and I'm going to do whatever it is that I'm doing to make more money, and I don't care about the climate change. But that, all right, they're entitled to that. They are our brother, and they are perfect the way they are. And one day, maybe in these states, I should say the world, because it can't be just located here, there will be finally zero on the climate change. They're talking about the year 2050, 2040, 2050. So, but that's all still about change. It's still all about the physical world. And I was thinking, as you said what you were saying, Mickey, if you think that it's something that means something, that Asheville was wiped out, guess who is giving all the meaning to it? I mean, lesson 1 and lesson 2 is the entire course. It really doesn't mean anything if we are spirit, if we are one. Yes, we are one. There's no two ways about that. If you're doing this course for any length of time, you got to come to the truth. Now, there's only 2 ways in which you can have a purpose in this world. One is the ego's purpose of survive and thrive and get and want and have more. That's the ego's purpose. And he tells you in chapter 29, nothing survives its purpose. So if your purpose is to get and do, finally, it's going to be, sorry, Charlie, goodbye. It doesn't survive. The other purpose is the purpose of the Holy Spirit, which is to correct what we have believe mistakenly, and the correction is the atonement. The correction is to watch my thoughts, just like that Zen master Suzuki says, hey, listen, these thoughts are going to enter the front of your mind and they're going to exit the back door. Just don't serve them tea. If you're holding on to the thoughts of why did this happen, like the Rabbi Krishna wrote a book, Why Do Bad Things Happen to Good People? He wrote it like 40 years ago. Why do bad things? But that's the ego's whole shtick. You better be good, or that's going to happen to you. I mean, we're living in a prison of separation. Why is Chapel Hill on one side of North Carolina safe, and Asheville on the other side, there for the grace of God go I, my God. And, that's what the ego's been saying for eons. But that's giving meaning to the meaningless. It really is. I mean, lesson 11 says, my meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. And there is I think it's in 11, there's a paragraph that says, if you knew what was underneath those thoughts, those ego thoughts, doesn't use the word ego there, underneath the thoughts, what's underneath, you would be, I forgot the word, but something happy. You'd be so happy if you knew what was underneath those thoughts. Maybe I'll find the word, but the word that doesn't really. You would be irresistibly. I think that's the word. Irresistibly happy. Maybe it's not. But
what paragraph is that in?
I think it's paragraph 6 of lesson 11.
Oh, there's only 4.
What?
There's only 4 paragraphs.
Lesson 11?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Are we looking at lesson 11? Okay, all right. It's all right. The word doesn't, but whatever is really, he's telling you the truth would make you so happy. But you're looking at the lie. As long as you look at the lie, you're going to be unhappy. God's will for me is perfect happiness. I said, no, I can't be happy because I'm looking at what's going on over there. And by the way, Len, one of the towns that was really also hurt and destroyed, but they don't talk a lot about it because it's not as big as Asheville, is Boone. And Len and I are very familiar with Boone because we had I was there twice for a retreat, and it's a very spiritual place too in the Boone area. As a matter of fact, the Indian guru who owns that retreat, he was passing. The story goes he was passing over in a plane, a private plane, and he felt this power coming from wherever. And he said, I want to go back and I want to buy that place. And he bought this retreat, which many people go to.
I've been there.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I love that place.
So we did 2 workshops there. We had a whole bunch of teachers come down. Maureen, Regina was there. John Mundy was there. Anyway, make a long story short, we think that certain things are more holy than others. That's, like you go to the Vatican. Oh my God, it's the Vatican. If you go to Sicily, it's not the Vatican, it's the home of the mafia. I mean, that's the ego. This is where holy is, and this is where unholy is. I mean, you really have to laugh. So the thing that we have to really watch, and I'm going to be speaking on this on Sunday in my homily at Awakening Together. Lynn's going to be my reader on Sunday, and I'm going to be talking about what is your purpose, what do you value? Now, your values come from your purpose. If your purpose is truth, you got to read lesson 133. I will not value what is valueless. It means it's worthless, but you still make it important. You still make it means something. I'm giving meaning to the meaningless. I won't value what is valueless. What's valuable belongs to me. And you might say, well, what are those rules? And yeah, he gives you two criteria in which you can judge what has no value and what has all value. And what is valueless is anything that changes. Anything that changes. Money changes, seasons change, towns change, cities change, countries change. Anything that changes has no value to you, the Holy Son of God. What's valuable belongs to all of us equally. That means that I don't have more than anyone else. Everyone has the same. Sameness, equality. That's what's valuable. You might say, well, what's that? I mean, after all, your place looks bigger than my place. There you go again. We change. No, what's valuable belongs to all is content. And if you're a follower of Ken Wapnick, which most of us are, he said, never confuse form with content. And that's right out of the Course. That's Jesus, never confuse symbol with source. Source is God. Symbol is what we have made as a substitute. I call it a shabby substitute for God. And I don't want to just use the whole time up. I'll leave it there because I kind of said what it is I wanted to say. I see that Lynn Johnson has put up, indescribable.
Lesson
Thank you.
12.
Yeah. So if you could accept the world as meaningless, okay, all right. Thank you so much for that. If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy. Can you imagine that? And that's in lesson number 12, paragraph 5. Okay. Over to whoever wants to take it.
Okay, I'm going to let Mickey take it. I have to say something to someone here. Just
Okay. If you could accept the world as meaningless. So all of these things that we're putting all these values on these meaningless things, these bodies, the scenery, the trees. Look at the forest behind Dove. Gorgeous. Don't we love, would we rather be in that forest there or in a slum in Calcutta? We're putting value on the gorgeous trees, the gorgeous plants. We love nature. We love places that we think we can feel power in. When you were listing off those places, Deb, I was thinking, oh yeah, Mount Shasta. Boy, is that a holy place. We all, and it's so gorgeous. And we think things that are beautiful have more power than things we consider ugly. We think people, look at how we revere people who we consider really pretty or really handsome. We're putting way more value on them than somebody that we think is disfigured. And that's the kind of stuff that I'm really happy to say, oh, I had a judgment about that person. That's an ego thought. I'm not going to listen to the ego. That I got to tell you a funny story about when Dove talks about that Asian master who says don't invite them in for tea. So my mother, whose name was Hilda, was not a pleasant person. Putting it very mildly. And right after she passed, I was going absolutely crazy with memories of all the hurt and abuse and the horrible things. And a very good friend of mine said, oh, you just invited Hilda in for tea, didn't you? And I said, yes, I did. I asked her to sit down. I made her a cup of tea. she's living in my head now. And we didn't even know about that saying, Dove. That's the universal one mind that just thought that up. Two ladies talking in North Carolina. And so now whenever one of us starts having weird ego thoughts, the other will turn around and say, "Oh, you just invited Hilda in for tea, didn't you? She knocked on the door and you opened it and you asked her inside." And so anyway, back to the ego thoughts. It's really easy when we're thinking about something abstract to say, "Oh, like some judgment about something." That's just an ego thought. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to acknowledge it. I'm going to do the things that Raffi tells us to do, like, can you let it go? Easy, but then these really personal things come in, like the passing of a loved one's body, or the destruction of a town that we love, or valuing something, that we think is beautiful or lovely. And all of a sudden, it's not so easy to be abstract anymore. And it really takes a lot of mind training to stop that and say, I am valuing the valueless. It doesn't matter how pretty it is in my mind, it's still valueless. Go ahead, Lynn.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mickey. Thank you, everybody. Let me switch the mic on Pal Talk so that people can hear me. All right. So I love what everyone is saying, and thank you so much for your input and insight, Mickey. This is what we posted from lesson 12. What is meaningless is neither good nor bad. So right off the bat, he's saying that what is meaningless, the world is not good and it's not bad. Why then should a meaningless world upset you? If you could accept the world as meaningless and let the truth be written upon it for you, it would make you indescribably happy, which is what we just read. What we're seeing, the meaningless world that we're seeing, is what we call the illusion. It's the story that we've written over top of reality. So he's saying if you could just, see that that's not what's real, but there is a reality here, then the reality is that God is. God, love is, God is. That's the truth. That's the reality. And anything else we tell ourselves is again the veil or the illusion, or I've heard it calls many different things, but it really is just a story that was written over top of reality. But because it is meaningless, you are impelled to write upon it what you would have it be. The world itself has no meaning. It is neutral. There's nothing good about climate change. There's nothing bad about climate change. It is just what it is. There's nothing good about, the flooding of, Asheville. There's nothing bad about the flooding of Asheville. It is just what it is. But we put meanings on it and say, oh, this is not so good. This is better. This is, we make up all these stories about it. And if you could just see it for what it is, just a meaningless, picture that is only here to obscure the truth, obscure God, keep us from seeing God. We do this to each other. We look at other people, and we instead of seeing Christ in them, we see a picture that you don't agree with me politically, or you are a different religion, or you're different, your skin is a different color, or whatever it is, you're a man, I'm a woman, I don't, you can't understand me, I can't know you. Those are all pictures that are put on top of what's real, and what's real is the Christ. What's real is God. So that is what what, we're really trying to get to is the truth about what's here, not just this story that we've made up and that seems so compelling. So I love this discussion, and I'll turn it back over to Dove or whomever.
All right, thank you for that, and I love the way you put clarity to that thing. It's not good or bad, The ego is making it good and bad. It's nothing. It's really nothing. You're meaningless thoughts are showing you a meaningless world. That's 11, I think, and 12, which is what this is a meaningless world engenders fear. And he's saying, obviously we're afraid that, when Helene was heading towards Tallahassee, and they were saying we have not seen a storm like this in over 100 or 200 years. I mean, nothing like this has ever happened to Tallahassee, and everyone was wondering, oh my, those poor people in Tallahassee, right? Well, guess what? Tallahassee wasn't really badly hit. Who would have ever dreamed that Asheville, North Carolina, was going to be demolished? I mean, who? You couldn't make that up. But and then people like Dove says, hey, there's a few cities in America I wouldn't mind visiting, because my children actually visited Asheville last fall to see the colors, and the fall supposedly is the most beautiful time of the year in Asheville. A lot of tourists, etc. And of course, they're saying even if they could fix Asheville up, the loss of income from people who have restaurants, they are gone. They have lost all that income. They have to leave, literally. They have to. But that's making something out of nothing. You're still saying, "Oh, those poor people." As long as you see those poor people, it's the ego that's making it all up. There's no such thing as poor people. It's the ego saying, "Well, there for the grace of God go I." I just want to mention again that Boone was supposedly also very badly demolished, very badly hurt, and Boone was taken over or bought. The retreat is called the Art of Living Retreat Center, which is in Boone, and it's about, I don't know, it's about 5 or 10 miles from Boone. And Ravi Shankar, Sri Ravi Shankar, was the Indian guru who has a vast following around the world, London. He has other retreats in the United States. He's passing over in a plane, and he felt this power that was coming from this place. I want to go back and buy that place, and he did. Well, why does that place have more power than New York or San Francisco or Chicago or Chapel Hill? I mean, it's all the same. But the ego said, no, it's more special, more important, and that's today's lesson. What is today's lesson? Let me not bind your son with laws that I have made. And what's the law that he's talking about? The laws of specialness, particularly the law of one or the other. Well, yeah, if I have to choose Sodom or Gomorrah, if I have to choose between Philadelphia and Nashville, I want Philadelphia to go. Keep Asheville because it's sacred. No, there's nothing sacred in a world that doesn't exist, except the ego makes it sacred. I want to also say, can you include, Lynn, the email for Christine? I put it up here. She's in a nursing home in a wheelchair, and she just wants to start doing the lesson. She has no course book. And I sent her lesson 277, which you send out in the mail every day. So thank you. And Lorri, do you want to say anything? I didn't mean to take all the time. Do you want to say something, Lorri?
No, that's fine now. It was a great discussion, and I appreciate you mentioning the lesson 133, that anything that changes isn't valuable. Because when I first read that lesson, I was very offended. It was like, wait a minute, all these things in my life, I love this and I love that and I love that, and you're telling me it's not valuable? But as I I let the Holy Spirit change my mind and let go of valuing and specialness, I have so much more peace.
Yeah.
So I'll let that go. And good morning, Zulma. And I have to go. But it was great discussion, everyone. Thanks, Nikki and Sharon, Lynn, and Dove. And we'll see you later.
Okay, I just want to mention the 2 criteria, which tells you what has no value whatsoever, is anything that changes has no value, because what God creates is changeless. Peace, love, light, truth, changeless. The other criteria is if you think that someone has something that you don't have, or vice versa, I own something that others don't have, whatever it is, it has no value to you, the Son of God, because what's valuable is given to all equally. So it's impossible that I have something that you don't have, or you have something that I don't have. That's where coveting, the 10th commandment of the 10 commandments, comes from. And Catherine Ponder says, if you just do the 10th commandment, you don't have to do the first 9.
Thanks, Lorri.
Thou,
Thanks, Lorri. Thanks, all of y'all. I'm sorry, David. Before
right.
she left, I'm sorry. I just wanted to
No,
tell her thank you, because
right.
I got a lot out of it, with all the, meaningless stuff, because it's really, the devastation's got to me too. So thank you.
You're welcome.
God bless.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, everyone, so very much. What a great discussion. And yeah, the reality of the ephemeral is really ridiculous. It doesn't exist. So and that's not to say don't do anything about problems you see in the world. It just says don't believe them and know that the truth is somewhere there. It's not just what seems apparent to the eye. Anyway, thank you all so very much. I'm going to turn off the. Yes, go ahead.
I would add one more thing. This world is a classroom, and whatever happens is just a lesson that we need to learn. Period.
Exactly.